What's going on, guys? Welcome to the final day of our trip in Dallas. We've had a crazy trip so far. This was a fun session. We're gonna go over all the trip totals at the end of the video, so stick around and let's get right into the video. The last day of our 3-week trip in Dallas. You guys know the drill. We're into the 1-2 game for $500, and we got a little football Sunday to go along. Let's go Broncos. This one is gonna be a banger of a vlog, and what a better way to start it with a little bit of Jack 4. We're in the $5 straddle, and the middle position player raises to $10. There's 2 callers. I got a suited Jack 4 for $5 more. I'm going to see a flop. So I do. And the flop is pretty good. It's Queen 9-4 with 2 spades. We flop bottom pair and a Jack high flush draw. Going to check it over here to the aggressor. And the middle position player bets out for $20, only to get looked up by the hijack, and the action gets back over to me. Folding is never going to be an option here, but the question is, do we want to turn our hand into a semi-bluff? And I think sometimes that is definitely an option. We could fold on hands that are currently beating us, like pocket 10s or a 9. A queen probably wouldn't fold to a flop bet, but if we miss our draw, we can still bluff, and if we hit it, we get more value. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play aggressive. I raise it up to $75 in the actions on middle position. The original raiser in the hand, he decides to let his cards go. That's definitely great for us to see, but we're not going to get let off that easy. The hijack 6 in the call, which is a little bit strange to me. It seems like he's probably going to have a lot of draws, like Jack 10, spade draws, maybe a hand like King Queen or King Jack that wants to continue here. And depending on the run out, I definitely think those hands will fold. So we're going to go heads up to a turn card, which is the 7 of hearts. We don't improve, but we are going to continue putting money in the middle here. We could still have the best hand versus King X of spades or Ace X of spades, and those hands would probably fold to a big bet here, as well as a hand like Queen Jack or Queen 10 is not going to love this spot. So I put out a bet of $140, and the opponent doesn't take too long before letting his cards go. Not sure if we had the best hand or not, but I like my line that I took there, and we showed the table we had the 4 of spades, letting him wonder what the other card was. It's a good sign when you take down a nice pot on the first hand, and we take down a couple more small pots to get our stack already up to $800. In the next interesting one, we look down at Queen 9 of spades in the hijack. There's a button straddle on, so I put in a raise to $20, and we get looked up by the big blind and the button. So we're going to go in between 2 opponents to a flop, which is, again, really good for us. It's Ace 9-3 with 2 spades. We have middle pair and a queen high flush draw. Pretty surprising to see when the big blind leads out into me for $25. It's a pretty small sizing, and you should never be leading into the preflop aggressor on ace high boards. But we're playing 1-2 in Texas, and people don't play by the rules here. Pretty similar situation to last hand, except we're the preflop aggressor this time. I don't really see any reason to turn our hand into a bluff with middle pair, so we decide to take the passive route this time and just stick in the call, and the button player comes along as well. So we're still going 3 ways to a turn card, which is the ace of hearts. It makes it less likely our opponents could have an ace, so more likely that our 9 could be good. But the big blind bets again for $25. Same bet, really weak play here from him. I think if he had an ace, he would definitely go bigger. We don't really need to turn our hand into a bluff. If our opponent is bluffing, we definitely want to keep him doing that. Never going to be folding the turn here. I stick in the call. And surprising to see the button player comes along as well. So I think it's likely that he has a 9x hand or some kind of flush draw to go along as well. Off to a river card now, which is the deuce of spades. We improve to the queen high flush. Absolutely amazing to see. But unfortunately, the big blind decides to check this time. I don't know what kind of hand he's trying to represent, but all I know is that we're going to have to bet for value here, targeting an ace, maybe a worse flush. So I bet about half pot for $110. The action's over to the button player, who is in the tank for a little bit before he sticks in the call. So that's interesting to see. I don't think he's ever going to have a king high flush. I feel like those hands would probably raise a lot of the time. So he most likely have the best hand against the button. The big blind lets his cards go, and we show the queen high flush. The button shows us Jack 8 of spades, so he had a lower flush. Dirty river. We are going to scoop a $431 pot with a flush. Things are going pretty well for us so far, and we're going to move on to the next one. Pocket 10s under the gun. A great hand to see. We're going to raise it up. I make it $15, and the player to my left in the under the gun +1, 3 bets to $40. Definitely planning on playing this one a little bit passively and just sticking in the call. But when the middle position player calls and the action gets back over to me, this seems like a nice spot to go for the squeeze. I think heads up, we would be more inclined to just call, but going out of position 3 ways with pocket 10s is not ideal. I don't 4-bet pocket 10s every time, and obviously the player to my left has a pretty strong range, but with the middle position player calling in between, we're definitely more inclined to squeeze here. So I pump it up to $165, and the action is on the player to my left. Pocket 10s are a pretty vulnerable hand, and there's definitely some boards we don't want to see, so I like the 4-bet here. Both players end up mucking their cards, and we're going to take down a pretty nice pot without even seeing a flop. Pocket 10s got upgraded to pocket aces. Let's go. We are in the cutoff, and the under the gun player raises to $12 to get called by middle position. The action's over to us. We are definitely 3-betting. I make it $45 to go, and we get looked up by the original raiser under the gun. So we're going to go heads up to a king high flop, king 3 deuce with 2 spades. Seems like a great board for us to get value from. It seems like the under the gun player will have a lot of king queen, king jack, king 10. So when he checks it over to me, I'm going to put out a value bet around half pot for $50. There's also some draws you could continue with, like Jack 10 of spades, Queen 10 of spades. The under the gun player does decide to come along, and we're going to go off to a turn card, which is the Queen of clubs. It's an interesting card because one of the biggest hands we get value from on the flop is King Queen, but now that has us beat, it also puts a double flush draw on board. So when he checks it over to me, I think we are going to go big. I look over at his stack, and he only has about $180 left. And there's just over $200 in the pot. Seems like a slam dunk spot to go all in. If he does have a hand like Jack 10 of spades, we got to make him pay for that river card. So I put it all in for $180 effective, and he basically snap folds and tells us that he had 6-5 offsuit for just a gutter ball on the flop. Welcome to Texas, everybody, and we are going to take that pot down. Our stack has been building very steadily in the right direction. It's our last day in Texas, and we got to make it count. Speaking of 6-5 offsuit, we look down at it ourselves on the button straddle. There's 5 limps over to me, and we are going to see a flop. I check my option, and we go to a Jack 7-8 rainbow flop. We have an open-ended straight draw, but if a 9 comes on the turn, any 10 will make a straight, so it's not really too great for us. So we're really just looking for the 4. The middle position player bets out for $10, and the hijack sticks in the call. For that cheap of a price to see a turn card, I'm absolutely going to be in there. I stick in the call, and 2 other players come along as well. So the pot is going to be brewing here. The turn card now is the 8 of clubs. Doesn't improve our hand in the slightest. And yet again, the middle position player is going to bet out for $10, and the hijack sticks in the call. The action gets over to me, but the other 2 players in the big blind in early position decide to put in the call before I can even act. I let them know that I still have cards, and they take their bets back. This is a really interesting situation here because those players putting in the call is some really good information for us. Those 2 players would never just call an 8 here on the turn, and the middle position player betting out for $10 into $80 is never going to be an 8 either. The hijack is basically just dead money, so I think we have a really good opportunity to steal it here. Both those players calling out of position. We are going to take advantage of it here, so I raise it up to $65. We definitely can credibly rep an 8 here on the turn. Those 2 players behind us should basically be dead money, and I expect to take it down here a lot of the time, but not so fast. The big blind decides to get a little bit sticky here, and he puts in the call. So assuming that he was just going to call the $10 on the turn here, it seems like he's going to have a lot of flush draws like King 9 of clubs, Queen 9 of clubs, Ace 9 of clubs, hands maybe that have a straight draw to go along. Sure, he could have a hand like Queen Jack, Jack 10, Jack 9. All those hands would definitely make sense, but I really do think that he would raise an 8. So if we don't hit our straight here, we are probably going to be blasting off depending on what the river brings in. River card is the brick of all bricks. It's the deuce of diamonds, and the player checks it over to me. Now, we are going to stick along with the plan. It could be likely that our opponent has a missed draw of some sort, so a bet would definitely get him to fold. And if he has a jack, I believe a big bet would put him in the blender. $230 in the pot. We are going to bet almost that. We make it $200 to go, and our opponent thinks about it for a little while before folding his cards and showing us the 8 of spades. He turned trips, and we got him to fold the river. If somebody makes a big fold in your bluff and you have to show the table, I let him know that I had 6 high. We bluffed the short side of this guy. That whole hand was really weird, though. The configuration of them calling with me out of turn, I really didn't think he would call an 8, but I guess I'm wrong. But I'm glad we decided to stick with our bluff, and we probably get a pot that didn't belong to us. Shout out to my buddy Joey Sabo because we look down at the ducks, pocket deuces. There's 1 limp, and the middle position player makes it $25. We are going to go set mining, looking for a duck on the flop, so I stick in the call, and there's 2 other players I put in the call. Can we find the deuce? We do. It's King 8 deuce rainbow. We have bottom set. Absolutely love to see it. And the action's going to start by checking over to me. Maybe it's the way I have my chips stacked up or my arm in front of my cards or something, but the player to my left jams all in without me even acting. What is going on here, guys? I'm still in the hand. He puts $109 in without me even acting. And this is kind of a weird spot here because if I put in a bet, it's going to look super strong. His action is binding, so if I check, he's still going to be forced to go all in. So that seems like the best play. I check, he jams for $109. And the action gets over to the player in middle position who decides to stick in the 109. Now this pot is brewing. What do we want to do here? It seems like we're going to miss value if we go for a raise here. So I decide to set the trap on middle position and just stick in the call. The line does look really strong though because he jammed out of position and I checked over to him. And there's really no draws on this board, so I probably have top pair or better here. Regardless, the turn card comes the 9 of hearts and the middle position player checks to me. Definitely going to be betting here. He was the original raiser pre-flop, so he can still have ace, king, king, queen, king, jack, king, 10, and even pocket aces. We're probably going to get it all. So I put out a bet of $155, targeting all of those hands, and he doesn't think about it for too long before just sticking in the call. This is exactly what we were hoping to see, but there is one thing to note. His range is definitely super strong as well. He definitely could still have pocket kings and pocket eights being the original raiser pre-flop, and like I mentioned, the board is so dry, so it's easy to slow play those hands. So we're not in the clear quite yet until the river. The deuce of clubs. We hit quads on the river. Somebody let the ducks out of the cage. Holy smokes, what's happening? The middle position player checks to me, and we have quads. We're going to be putting some money in the middle. The river should basically be a brick, so we're still going to target all those hands that we targeted on the turn, but we can also include full houses like kings and eights this time. There's $750 in the middle, and I definitely think we want to bet a pretty large sizing here to get some value. If he does have a full house, he's going to just jam anyway, so we don't have to worry about it. So I put out a bet of $435. I think it's unlikely that our opponent will fold pocket aces or ace king here, so we're targeting those hands. Can we get paid? The opponent goes deep into the tank. He doesn't look too comfortable, but it seems like he's going to have at least top pair here. In the end, he decides to lay his hand down, but he shows us king 9. What a fold. Wow, I show the table that I got quads, and of course, we beat the other guy. But nice fold there from middle position. Maybe we got a little bit too greedy there on the river, but all in all, really nice fold. We're going to scoop in a nice pot with quads. 2 more hands left in this one, and they're arguably the best ones. We look down at queen 9 of clubs in the hijack. There's a $5 button straddle and 2 limps. I raise it up to $30 and we get called by middle position. Going heads up. I know it's pretty weird. To the flop we go, which is queen 9-4 with 2 hearts. We flop top 2 pair in a great spot here. The middle position player checks to me. This is the same player from last hand. We're going to put out a c-bet about a third the size of the pot for $25. And the middle position player quickly puts in the call. Another pot brewing here, and we have a very strong hand. The turn card is basically a brick. It's the 7 of diamonds. And now he checks it over to me once again. There's definitely plenty of draws we could get value from here. Any flush draw, jack 10, 10-8. So we should probably size up a little bit. I think closer to the size of the pot will be better, but in game, I decided to put out a bet of $80, which I think is totally fine. But the middle position player doesn't think it's totally fine. He decides to put in the check Rizzo, the check raise to $230. And this is a little bit confusing to me. It seems like any hand that he would want to check raise turn with, he would want to check raise flop. I don't see him just spazzing out with a flush draw here on the turn. It's possible that he could be check raising a worse hand like 9-7 suited or queen 7 suited. He also could have turned a set with pocket 7s. But I think it's possible that he could have a hand like 6-5 of hearts or 10-8 of hearts and improve to an open-ended straight draw on the turn and want to check raise. Other than pocket 7s, it's pretty difficult to find a hand that beats us right now. Pocket 4s would most likely check raise flop with straight and flush draws everywhere. So we're going to put in the call here and evaluate a river card. The river card is quite interesting. It's the jack of hearts. Not great to see. It completes the front door flush draw. It also completes 10-8, makes a straight, as well as king 10. The middle position player does not slow down. He bets out for $330, and now we are in quite the spot. What is he trying to represent? A couple of those hands, like I mentioned on the turn, 6-5 of hearts and 10-8 of hearts, now make a flush. If he was going to play aggressive with his flush draws, I think he would start by check raising the flop. So I'm just a little bit confused on what he's trying to represent here. Obviously, like I mentioned, he could still have pocket 7s, but this line just really isn't making too much sense to me right now. If he had a hand like 10-8 or pocket 7s, he probably wouldn't love that the heart completed on the river. So I smell something fishy here, and you guys know me. I like to hero call on the river. In the end, I decide to stick in the call, and he says, "You're good," and shows pocket 6s, the under pair bluff. We're going to win this one with 2 pair. Hats off to him for going for it, though. The line didn't make sense, and we sniffed it out. Over a $1,200 pot coming my way. Last day in Texas, going phenomenal. And we're going to move on to the last hand of the night. We're on the button straddle with jack 5 of hearts. There's 4 limps, and we are going to see a flop, which is quite magnificent, if I don't say so myself. 10-8-3, all hearts. We flop the jack high flush. We're running hot. Let's go. The action checks to me, and I'm going to put out a bet of $15. We get looked up here by 2 players, and hoping to not see a heart on the turn, we don't. It's the deuce of spades. I would expect the action to check over to me once again, and it does. Sitting with a really strong hand, we want to build the pot. Obviously, don't want to see any hearts on the river. So I put out 2 green chips. That's $50. The first player puts in the fold, but the action is on the hijack, and this has been the guy from the last few hands that we've been battling with. And he wants to battle some more. He puts in the check raise. And ladies and gentlemen, it is not a small raise. $250. It's a 5x raise. What is happening here? What is he trying to represent with these turn check raises? He's really putting me in the blender. We have a flush. We have a very strong hand, but he's also representing a flush. He could definitely have a king, queen, or ace high flush. The thing is about this turn check raise, we still beat some value, so we're never going to fold. He could have a hand like pocket deuces, pocket 3s, a worse flush like 9-7 of hearts, 9-6 of hearts, 6-5 of hearts. So we are definitely never folding the turn here. I stick in the call, hoping to see a clean river. We do. It's a brick, 4 of clubs. And he decides to wager all of his chips for $475. I can't bring myself to fold a flush here. If he has a better one, it's just a cooler man. Sometimes in poker, you have to accept your fate, and that's what I'm doing here. I stick in the call, and he shows us the queen deuce of hearts. So sick, man. We're going to lose this over $1,500 pot, flush over flush on the flop. Pretty gross one to see on the last hand of the night, but things like this will happen in poker, up and down, and we've definitely learned that on this 3-week trip. We were into that game for $500 and out for $1,395. That is a profit of $895. I will absolutely take it. Thanks for watching, guys. Let's head to the outro where we're going to see how we did on the entire trip. Thank you guys for watching that video. Let's go over these trip totals. We ended the trip with a profit of $14,092. Oh my God. What in the world, bro? I never could have imagined that much profit just from playing 1, 2. We played a total of 165 hours in just under 3 weeks. I mean, we basically did nothing else but play poker on this trip, which was the goal. Thank you guys for following me along on this journey. There's gonna be a lot more vlogs to come in the future, different locations, different games, different stakes. It's gonna be a lot of fun, so stick around, subscribe to the channel, guys. See ya.